Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Illustration Department podcast. My name is Giuseppe Castellano. In this podcast, I talk to folks in illustration, graphic design, publishing, animation, and other creative fields about their work, the lessons they've learned, and the bumps and bruises they've experienced along the way. In this episode, my guest is illustrator, educator, and creative investigator, Sterling Hundley. What actually is creativity, and how can illustrators use it to find their voice? And does our creativity even belong to us? Sterling and I discuss. Among other topics, Sterling talks about why it's challenging for artists to find a voice. We discuss why it's important to stay present, especially for creative and depressive types. And Sterling explains why illustrators should embrace the word interesting. I hope you enjoy our conversation.
All I'm missing is a cup of coffee.
I have my cup of coffee, sir. I'm ready to go.
Don't brag.
Came prepared. I think that's it, man. Any questions?
No, I'm ready to roll. Excited to speak with you.
Sweet. By the way, just looking at photos of you online, I don't know why. I guess I've known of you since the 90s. And I think I was a student and you were working. So I guess I always thought of you as, you are older than I am. And I guess I always thought of you as looking older than I am. But I guarantee you, I look 10 years older than you do.
You might be looking at an old photo. Who knows? But I appreciate it. Kind of you to say.
Your well-curated photo library on the internet.
There you go.
You take down any recent photo, threatening lawsuits.
Yeah, I've got people working on that. So
I'm sure you do. Your students at VCU.
Yeah, exactly. We actually have a team of researchers there. That'll be kind of a cool point of the conversation because things are changing so much. And we've got about 19 researchers working in the Applied Arts Lab that I co-direct with Jason Bennett. And we're getting involved with some really, really wild projects that all start with drawing, but end up going into any direction you can imagine with entertainment technology and photogrammetry. And so that's kind of the big emphasis these days on what we're doing.
And the folks on the lower end of the ladder there, they're the ones doing the photo research for you.
Yeah, they're the Gestapo, the photo Gestapo for me. So
the interns, that's their job.
There you go.
So how's VCU going?
Right now, it's going better than it ever has, and I've been there a long time.
Okay.
I've been there.
We like to hear that.
Yeah, and so it's it's had its ups and downs, and I can't speak for the health of the university, as in universities at large, and art schools at large, because everything's changing. But with the founding of the Applied Arts Lab, we have gotten kind of access and carte blanche to do whatever we want. And oftentimes what we're doing is we sit in front of a whiteboard and say, what's the coolest stuff we can actually get involved with in the university and beyond? And we're going to a meeting tomorrow to talk about just using photogrammetry to scan an SR-71 Blackbird, which is my favorite plane ever, and build a 3D model out of that and everything that kind of comes with that. So that's just a few things going on there, but I have a lot of autonomy. I've been there long enough that I have seniority, and those things come with some flexibility, which is always poured into my research.
How long have you been there?
That is a good question. So I graduated from VCU in 1998, and I started teaching.
That's how my kids say it.
Yeah, exactly. I started teaching adjunct there pretty soon thereafter. I mean, within a year or two, started to work. I got invited to do a 1-year appointment there as not artist in residence. What was it called? So 1-year appointment. I would just say that, but was offered the position again and turned it down. I had not made my mark, had not gone out into the world, and was afraid of kind of all the things that come with that. So I came back in 2007. They invited me to come back and apply for a position. So I've been here since 2007 in a full-time role.
Congratulations.
So yeah, that's a stretch.
20 years almost as of this recording.
Yeah, and I oddly enough, I have a 25-year pin that I've received from the university. I've probably been, really since like 2000. So it's been a little over that all told, with some gaps.
Did you say pen or pin?
Pin, P-I-N.
Okay.
I like your emphasis on the syllable there, but it's it's just a little lapel pin that has, I'm assuming, fake gold and cubic zirconium.
I was just going to say it's gold plated, obviously.
Yeah,
diamond studded.
Cubic zirconium studded. So it is not pristine. It feels every bit like plastic. So.
Right. This is Virginia Commonwealth University, not Princeton University.
No exactly. No offense taken.
My daughters, they're 6 to 8 months away from us really going full tilt to the toward the college researching direction. I mean, they've already started. They're sophomores going into junior year, and VCU is one of the schools that we're thinking about.
If you need to talk to somebody, I know a guy, and it's odd enough. My daughter is a junior, and we are very much in the throes of looking at universities, and so we're kind of taking stock of what's available through VCU and other places as well. But it sounds like we've got a similar family situation. But you said daughters, so I'm assuming twins.
Twins, that's correct.
Amazing. So I have a younger son who's 12, but so your daughters must be 16-ish, assuming?
15, going on 16, going on 28.
Yeah.
For sure.
I relate to that. So amazing. Congratulations. My kids, as I tell people, and as you know, they're the best things that I will ever make. So
hands down. Hands down. I tell them all the time, I'm like, I know you guys are annoyed by this because, they roll their eyes and they shrug their shoulders and they're like, oh my God, that's so cringe. But I just keep telling them, like, you don't know how happy you make me. It's hard for me to even explain to you or describe to you how happy you make me. But you do. Just letting you know.
With luck, they will someday. Yeah.
Seriously. Speaking of moms and dads and whatnot, from what I gather, your mother, Rosalie, could build you a house and then paint you a picture of it as a housewarming gift. She sounded like a pretty spectacular person. Was she also an illustrator?
Illustrator, designer, more designer than anything, but artist through and through, and very pragmatic. We come from German stock on that side, and my grandfather was involved with the National Forest Service. He kind of was the number one guy for a while there, and
nice.
Very ordered and structured. So she gets a lot of that, but she's the most creative person I've ever met. And Christmas gifts and holiday gifts, and just whenever she feels like it, gifts are made with love and layered. There's always a procession to them, whereas there's a sequence of how you have to unpack it. This one first, and then this unfolds, and this builds up. But yeah, she would, she got into miniatures for a while. And the analogy I use, like, she would be able to wire the lights in a miniature house, and then she literally wired the lights in their log cabin too. So it's, she's out there with an auger, and she's digging in the dirt and making things. So very, very handy and very creative, and makes a very strong combination there.
Yeah. I like to think that I'm handy. I'm fairly handy, but there's part of me that just thinks I'm going to electrocute myself or flood the house every time I try anything. So I do it with caution, great caution.
Healthy dose of fear is always good.
A healthy dose of fear. Yeah, for sure. I understand she was also a Mark English fan.
Oh yeah. Aren't we all? But yes. So there's a story in that, if you're alluding to it.
Please do share with the audience.
So let me connect the dots. John English has been a dear friend.
I've heard of him.
He's kind of my art dad, but he's really taken me in. I was a student at VCU, then I went to the Illustration Academy, and there's stories in that too. But so while I was at the Illustration Academy, and this was out in Kansas City, it was all based around where Mark English was living. John English was living out there, and they were there because of, years ago, Hallmark, and Mark had been hired at Hallmark and moved his family. So that's the backstory.
Was Brad there?
No, Brad's was in New York for years. Brad has since passed, but he was at Hallmark sorry, to answer your question, yes, Brad was at Hallmark at one point.
But not when you were there.
But not when I was there.
Or not when that was happening. Right.
Exactly.
Yeah, I had Brad on the podcast a couple of years ago.
Incredible.
One of my favorite illustrators. And yeah, his passing and Mark's passing, obviously, huge losses for us.
Huge. And Brad was an enormous influence on the way that I make pictures, and more importantly, the way that I think. And I just always saw his work and thought, I want to make smart pictures. And he made the smartest pictures of them all. So,
yep.
But so the story with Mark is that as part of the academy, the year end, we would get to go to his house and explore his studio. And we kind of got to rifle through all of these old works that Mark had stored away. Well, before I left, my mom had asked me, she goes, as you know, I'm a huge Mark English fan. And he did this series called the Sunday's Child series. And she kind of just described it to me. I never saw it. And it ran in one of the Pretty Picture magazines. And anyways, that's all I had to go on. She goes, but if you could find, a tear sheet or something from it, then it'd be amazing. I haven't seen it in years. If you could find one. It's like, okay, I'll keep an eye out for it. And at the end of the academy, so this was 9 weeks in, I'm going through these illustrations, and I was actually in a studio alone at that point. I flipped to an image and I stopped. It's like, no way. That's got to be from that series. Just the way she described it has to be from that series. I had enough hubris or naivete or whatever you want to call it.
Guts.
Yeah, maybe. I think that's too complimentary. But I went up to Mark and I said, Mark, this painting, I said, is this from I guess it was the Tuesday's Child series, is what it was called. And he didn't remember. He goes, it could be, I think so. And I said, Mark, if you would ever consider parting with this, would you think about selling it, or I don't know, maybe even trading for it? And he kind of gave me the side eye and he goes, let me think about it. So that was enough. That was a compliment by itself. And we were right at the end. And another part of the academy tradition was exchanging figure drawings. And the instructors would sign them, and the students would pick them up and kind of get this lottery pick. And anyways, I'd done a lot of figure drawings while I was there, and Mark had seen them. He called me up. He goes, bring your figure drawings to this tennis club where they were having lunch. I brought these figure drawings, and he goes, I'll trade the painting for 3 of your figure drawings, which is, I need to digress. I told him the story that my mom was a huge fan and that she loved the painting and that it would be such an honor for her to get a copy of this thing. That's what swayed Mark, not my figure drawings. But we did.
Don't sell yourself short.
Well, the one thing that was really kind about it is I held back one of my figure drawings from the drawing sessions because it was my favorite one. I wasn't trying to short Mark or anything, but I was like, he's not going to notice. He's just doing this out of kindness. And I showed up and he starts going through the figure drawings and he goes, where's the one of the girl holding her foot? So he did want the drawing. And I said, well, I kept that back. I'll bring that to you. Anyways, we made the trade. And that Christmas, I went back, and at the same time, sorry, this is a long story, but at the same time, Mark had just received tear sheets, like randomly in the mail from that series that were folded up, and someone had put them in an envelope and sent them to him. And so I had the tear sheet, and I had this foam core board, and I put the tear sheet on top. She unwrapped the gift and opened it up, and she was just amazed that I had found the tear sheet. Because that's it. And she was just glowing. She was so over the moon for the tear sheet. And I said, look deeper. And she opened it up and she revealed the original painting from Mark. It's the best gift that I can ever possibly give anybody. And she was in tears and I was in tears, and it hangs on her wall in her home now to this day in that log cabin that I mentioned earlier. So I want to, again, say all this with the caveat that Mark was a gentleman, and he did this because he wanted me to take this back to my mom. And I was able to share with him years later that this reaction happened, and it was a gift of all gifts.
Yeah. Man, Mark English, darn it.
Yeah.
There's a handful of illustrators from that generation that I as a painter, as an oil painter, I look at, not as an illustrator. Oil painting. Mark English, Bob Peake, Barney Fuchs, Like there's a handful of those, and even Brad Holland, and maybe I don't know if Brad used oils or acrylics, or maybe Bob used acrylics or gouache. I'm not sure, but just as wet media painters, those are the dudes I'm looking at. In addition to, Diego Velázquez and Sargent and those others. I mean, that's is it too? Am I overselling it to say that they're on the same page?
Not to me, and it's just one of those things that it's strange how history remembers people, and illustrators are, it's hard for them to break into that echelon of fine art, high-end painting. But, that's a big part of Mark's later part of his life. He was a highly collected painter, and to see him experiment and push the thresholds of what paint could be was remarkable. But Bob Heindel, Bernie Fuchs, no, you're not overselling that to put them on the same page, in my opinion.
I was listening to your chat with John on, I guess it wasn't a podcast. I guess it's would you call it a video series? The Studio Bridge?
Yes.
In it, or perhaps it was another interview I listened to, when you listen to enough of them doing research for episodes, they all sort of start blending. But you mentioned that you were writing a book called Think Louder. I couldn't find a book, but I did find your Substack. So is a physical book still in the cards, or was it always going to be a newsletter?
It's still in the cards. In fact, I'm using the Substack newsletter I was originally to kind of start getting some of the ideas out there to build support for it and interest. I've approached a lot of publishers about this. I should say a lot of literary agents who are the gatekeepers for the publishers, and had probably a handful of folks that took a look at it and passed. It will come out. It's one of those things, whether I kickstart it or set it up as PDFs. It's just, it's such an extension of the way that I think and the way that I make images and processes that I've kind of created and developed and employed, and all those things that I wish it's the book, as a lot of writers say, it's the book that I wish I had when I was younger, because these things weren't out there.
Yep.
What I've developed from there is a series of classes. They're currently through proco.com, and they've been an amazing partner in all this, just as far as facilitating, promoting, marketing, giving me a platform. But I've got the 3 classes, and I'm also a professor, so I try to build everything around a semester, and each of those courses is 6 weeks, and they've got a lot of the ideas in it. So it makes sense that the book will be broken into chapters as PDFs to go with the courses. So
right,
vision, voice, and idea craft. Yeah.
All right. Well, when it's an actual book, let me know, because I want to read it and then tell my local bookstore about it so they can carry it and other people can read it. In your description of Think Louder, you say that, quote, creativity doesn't belong to artists. It belongs to everyone. Meaning what?
Everybody's creative. I mean, I can't say everybody, but I think a lot of the frustration that people feel in their lives is their inability to voice their emotions, to give bodies to their ideas, and to find a way of meaningfully connecting those things with other people. So we are gifted as artists, as creators, to have an outlet. I would think literally go mad if I couldn't get these ideas out of my head onto the page. Mm-hmm. So when I talk about creativity, it's that. And part of the things that we're doing these days, with an expansion on what started as illustration and then design, and then I would say prototyping, visualization, working with doctors, working with inventors, working with anybody who has an idea, is we're able to help them get that thing out of their head onto the page. That doesn't always mean that it makes forward progress, but any progress, even a hard no, is better than a maybe. And that's a huge thing that I think that I'm trying to really get out in the world is that the way that we think, the way that we are creative, there's a process to it. There's a need for it. There's a therapy in it. And only when you're able to manifest something and to make it where it has the possibility of connecting with another person across time and space does it truly become art. I want to empower more people to believe in the ideas that they have and know that there's a way forward for those ideas.
Agreed on all fronts. I guess if I'm being my usual self and picking out something that, I don't know, gets the back of my hairs on the back of my neck up a little bit, it's the word belong. That as I was reading that, I was like, yeah, this is, bouncing around your words. I'm like, yeah, this sounds great. And then I saw belong and I was like, wait a minute, I have to talk to Starling about this. It's the word that gets used a lot in AI discussions. Like that our, mine, yours and mine, our creativity doesn't necessarily belong to us, the artists who know how to draw and paint. It belongs to all of us. So as I read that, I was like, whoa, hold on a second. What does this mean? Thank you for clarifying. I'm sure you're familiar with Dorothy Parker.
Yes.
She is quoted as saying, creativity is a wild mind and a disciplined eye. And I don't know if I can find a better description of what creativity is. My own way of explaining it to illustrators that I mentor is that creativity is a 360-degree state of mind and being. Take that, Dorothy Parker. No, I'm just kidding.
No, that's. I know you're going to explain it more, but that's both definitions are fantastic. And being creative in all that you do, it's a way of living and seeing and being. Yes,
exactly.
I agree.
Yeah, and in the context with which I sort of explain this with illustrators is, I'm sure you've heard this. I'm sure you've seen it. Illustrators are often told to limit what they do creatively. They have to have a cohesive style, quote unquote, or a singular direction, or else they'll confuse publishing professionals and other clients and so forth. That, to me, if you can think of creativity as like a 360-degree pie broken up into all sorts of slices, and each slice represents a way of being creative, not just like sculpture and painting, but anything. Literally anything that you do. You can wake up tomorrow and be like, you know what? I'm going to start flower arrangement. Like there's a creativity there. And okay, go ahead, do that. Yeah, but shouldn't I be also doing illustrate? Yeah, do that too.
Yeah.
You should be able to you should be able to turn in any direction, however you want, whenever you want. As long as you're maintaining some control of the chaos. Like don't just like do this 1 minute and do that the next minute. I mean, try to, plan it or something. You should be able to, it's imperative that artists remember this. Don't just select one slice of the pie and think that that's what you're going to do forever. That's just not how creativity works.
Right. Yeah, agreed. It's one of those things that, we have to give our ideas a body. And the way that we give those ideas a body is through medium that amplifies the message, right? So if you have a thought and idea, maybe, if we're looking at this, let's just take the most basic tools. And we said, I've got something I need to create that needs to emote. It has to be an emotional, sad image, and I want to convey that emotion. If I ask people which traditional materials would you reach for first? Most people, when I say charcoal, like, yep, that's it. That's sad and moody. You got it. That's a tool amplifying a message, and it's playing to the inherent qualities of that tool. Now that amplifies from media to medium, right? As you get in, or medium to media, I said it backwards, but as you get into different tools, images that move, right? And sometimes stories need to be told through animation, sometimes through live action, sometimes through computer images. If you open up yourself to finding the right tool to convey the right message, then creativity is you're not pigeonholing yourself. You're not putting yourself into this narrow space. And I say all that against this caveat that I do believe in the necessity of limitations on creativity to find forward progress. So you have to, that's the discipline, that's the Dorothy Parker quote, right? That's the component that you actually have to give it sides and boundaries to force it forward. There's an analogy to a shaped charge, which is like anything that's got a directional explosion, a rocket or a bullet or anything that's a shaped charge, it's a controlled blast, is kind of how I frame it when I talk to students.
This podcast is produced by the Illustration Department, a global leader in online education for illustrators. Visit illustrationdept.com for offerings like mentorships and portfolio reviews, testimonials, our alumni showcase, our best-selling Substack, and more. That's illustrationdept.com. And now, back to our conversation. What have you found is the biggest challenge artists, students, professionals, whoever have faced or continue to face on this, age-old quest we're all on finding a voice?
So finding a voice is, as you said, that's the highest level as an artist that you're trying to find. When someone sees your work, your signature's not attached, it's out of context, and they know it's yours. Like that resonance of the decision-making that goes into all these things. The first part for a young student is time. It's going to take time. It's going to take the friction of failure. So that's one thing as we start to talk about AI that I tell my students, like, the reason to resist this is because the lessons are in failure, and there's that friction of failure that is the great teacher. But as we kind of get into finding your voice, the majority of it has to do with failing enough so that you actually find your preferences, that you start to glom onto these things that you hold on to and say, I can repeat those because I've tested the other options. And what most people want to do is they want to emulate. They want to see something and copy it, and they think that that is the only path forward, or the path forward is like, well, you can do that for a time. The secret to not becoming a copy of somebody is not less influence. It's actually more, in my opinion. You need to look more. You need to read more. You need to live more. And it's when you pull from a singular source too much that it becomes problematic, that you are an echo of someone else's voice. So I think that's the biggest things: time, failure, and the discipline that it takes to see it through.
Yeah, that's what I see with illustrators I work with. They don't have the time, or it's not that they choose not to have the time. Just life doesn't allow them to have the time that they really need to develop. And if they know that, okay, I have a lot of work to do, many of them, not all of them, but many of them, rightfully so, want the thing, whatever the thing is for them, to happen sooner. This is sort of the difference between quote unquote AI artists. They're not artists, but folks who use AI straight up to make art and folks who don't. You can make AI, but that's not creativity, and that's not a voice. You can make things up, but you're not saying anything with the work. That's the separator between people who use AI to make imagery and people who use their own hands and brains. In addition to, things like copyright infringement and whatnot, but that's another point. So that's what I'm trying to get at here is like, it's one thing to be creative. Yes, creativity belongs to all of us. We can all be creative, but not few of us truly do have a voice. And that's what separates artists from anyone who is just creative. Yeah.
And I would say that to kind of follow what you're saying here, when you get into creativity, this notion again of friction of failure, AI is a black box. The process is not understood. And I make art for the process. I'm sure that you make art for the process.
Mm-hmm.
Like I can look back, as soon as a painting's done, I have no interest in it. Maybe I'm happy with it for a little while, but okay, that's maybe the best hits of, but I live in the future, not in the past. And as I make things, it's probably the same reason I like rock climbing and I play chess. Like there's a struggle to it. There's a hardness to it.
Okay. You can stop bragging now. That's enough of that.
No, I didn't say I'm good at either. But
I also quilt blankets. I'm a pretty damn good stock trader. No, go ahead.
Yeah. All those things would be wonderful, but no, it's a struggle. And I enjoy the hard things, and I always have. And I don't know of any illustrator, any designer who doesn't enjoy the problem solving component of it. And when you take that away, it's like, oh, it's easy. You prompt and you end up with something. There's no reward for me in that at all. One other thing to mention, the quote that you're reading was actually written before AI was deployed. That's been in writing for some time. And it is a strange word. It is not to second guess myself, but belongs to is there's a lot of words that of late have been co-opted that I completely disagree with, and not just in creative circles, that have been given new meaning. So to say that creativity belongs to somebody, what I think of it as is more empowering than, you too can go out and make things, that there's a way for you to craft and get things out there, but it always comes at a cost. It always comes at doing the hard work and the willingness to better yourself. And I guess it comes down to that, Giuseppe, like the willingness to better yourself through trials.
Yeah. I mean, don't get me started on words that no longer mean what they used to mean. We'll be here all day, and then we'll both sound like boomers or something. The one that gets me the most is truth.
Oh, yours and mine. Yeah, gotcha.
Very clear meaning. It is a fact. It is real. It exists. It is truth. Now it's a possessive. It's a thing you have.
Right.
You have a truth. Well, that's my truth. I don't know about you, but my truth is X, Y, and Z. No. You don't get to have a truth. It is a truth. And if you're talking about your experiences, then use the word experiences. This is my experience. This is how I feel. But if this is my truth, that tells me that, okay, well then that's, how is that your, I don't understand how truth can be a possessive thing. And I'm not saying, I'm sort of hinting at political discussions more than really anything else.
No, and I get it. And what you just said is the truth.
Nailed it.
The truth. And it's eroding things in core beliefs. So it's
Right.
it's immensely problematic. And I'm on the same page with you.
You were talking about not living in the past. From my research, I noticed that you and I have a few similarities. One, we've both struggled with staying present as opposed to always looking to the future or the past. And two, you keep a yellow notepad near your workplace to keep track of things. As do I. Do you still struggle with staying present, and do you still use a yellow notepad?
I use whatever notepad is handy. So the yellow notepad is my favorite as far as
Same.
being out of the sketchbook. So yes on that. I always will struggle being present. And, I've said this in other conversations, but I have to be careful. I've not been diagnosed ADHD or anything like that, but my wife has, and she's like, "You're so much worse than me." I mean, for me to keep a singular train of thought for more than 5 seconds is a miracle. So it's, when you have kids, and Giuseppe, you know this, there's nothing more important than being present. And when you have a partner, a spouse, wife,
Sure.
husband, there's nothing more important than being there and being with them. And I think by nature, a lot of artists are dreamers, and we kind of float and we drift. And so I use whatever I can at my disposal to be in the moment. And the most poignant thing that I have as a tool is my sketchbook. So I've built bodies of work around drawing the observations of the effect of time on my family, so I could draw my family, right? So now I'm sitting in the living room. I'm not daydreaming. I'm literally watching them sit on the sofa. Maybe they're watching TV, doesn't matter. And I'm creating drawings of them, but I'm very much alive in that moment. I'm very much, my mind is with my body. And that's kind of the big challenge I always face. My mind is not usually with my body.
Mm-hmm.
When you draw like that, if at that time my son was 4 and he comes over and he jumps in my lap and bumps my hand, one thought is like, oh, that mark is askew. It's like it's an errant stroke, and I'm frustrated because of it. Or you could say that is a record of that action that's consequence in time. That's just part of the drawing. And that's kind of the way that I try to live, is I try to roll with the punches and make sure that these observations they're documented in drawings, that I'm present of mind. Yeah. Anyways, I'm going on too long with that, but yes.
No, that's what I'm better now, so much better at it now. I credit age, I don't know, maturity. My life is fairly settled. I don't know. There's probably a lot of factors. I'm fairly active, do a lot of running and yoga and stuff. So, maybe a healthy mind and body that also helps staying present. But man, was I really horrible at it. In my defense, I had severe depression. So when you have depression, that's one definition of it is anger turned inward.
Right.
And I was also very much focused on the past when I was depressed. And I think that's a pretty common thing that depressed people do. So I was always thinking about what happened, what led to my depression. And I lost a year and a half or 2 years of memories because of that. And anytime I think of it, it enrages me, saddens me. Again, far better at it now. I'm not going to say I'm perfect. It's under control for the most part. But sometimes I allow myself to dwell on the past, emphasis on the word dwell. Like there is one particular incident in my life that just, if I allow myself to think about it, I will get furious. So I try not to. But life is good. So I choose to focus on the present. And I used to be horrible at looking to the future instead of staying in the present. And that's something that I've talked about this on the podcast before. And it was I wouldn't say a contentious point between me and my wife, but she would often say, like, why do you keep talking about the future? It's like, we're here. Be here. Stay here.
Right.
Talk about what we're doing now, not what we might do in the future. And I don't know if that's an artist thing. Maybe. I don't know if people listening are nodding their heads or scratching their heads.
Well, if I can just say, one, I'm sorry that you have been through that. That's I hope that you can forgive yourself for that year and a half. And, it sounds like you have, and that you're in a very healthy place. But, I don't think that ambition belongs to artists. Ambition belongs to anybody. And
right.
Being future leaning is one of those things, comes from background. It comes from personal grit and determination. It comes from a lot of things. Sometimes it comes from not having things and wanting things to be better. So those are things that I suffer with as well. We have no short supply of ambition in my family. And it's one of those things that it can break you if you let it. So I don't know. I have found times in my life where, I too have bouts of depression, and almost always it's like I have to break out my sketchbook. I have to write down things. I go through a writing exercise I call the purge paper. What do I need? What do I want? What do I have access to? What's truly bothering me? I try to get it, again, out of my head onto the page, and then I can deal with it. Then I have a whole series of putting it onto note cards and building a plan. But it always takes me some time to realize, like, wait, I'm in this state again and I want out of it. How do I fight through it? And I've developed a process, I think, just because it happens, I don't want to say so frequently, but enough that it's a paradigm shift that's needed. And the only way I can do that is to kind of rewrite the script.
That sounds like a much more interesting and creative, intelligent, cerebral way of thinking about it. Anytime my depression wants to, make its presence known, I just tell it to go fuck itself. Pardon my crassness. I don't got time for you.
Yeah.
I'm busy living my life. Go back to the corner where you belong.
There you go.
Let's turn our attention to brighter and better. The word interesting. I was listening to another chat. It might have been with John. You were talking about, don't think of art, specifically with students, helping them get better and improving, but don't think of like what you do, illustrators, writers, artists of all kinds, as good or bad. Is it interesting or not? Do you remember saying that?
Oh yeah. Yeah. That's one of those things I said, and I still believe. And the problem with good or bad is it assumes a known metric, right? It's if you go into a figure drawing class and you're drawing from life and you have an instructor come along, they can tell you, like, well, you did a good job here. This looks like what I see, and you see it, and you've done good job interpreting, or a bad job. But there's a known outcome. And back to this idea of creativity, that part of finding your voice is there is no roadmap. There is no known outcome. There's a synthesis to it, that you have to create something. And this duality of, let's create things maybe never before seen, but also that have to communicate. There's a paradox that's built into that that's really wild. If you want to find your own path, your own voice, your own stories, then you have to have that faith that it lives in you, and it lives in those experiences that you're going to seek, that you're going to have, the things that you're going to create as an outcome for those things. So, that's to me. Give me somebody who's led an interesting life, that's an artist, and almost certainly there's going to be something interesting in what they're making. I mean, they're going to have things if they speak to those experiences, and if they've taken the time to craft their skill and think about communication, they probably have something to say, and hopefully they've developed the means to say it. That's usually the recipe for something interesting.
There are good decisions you can make with your value relationships, your color harmony, composition, shapes, all the basics. You can make good decisions or bad decisions with the fundamental tenets of illustration. But the piece overall, whether it's good or bad, isn't the question you should be asking. Is this interesting? Did I make this interesting? Going back to what you were thinking about, like think louder, make smart pictures. What I often say to illustrators is, did you think about this deep enough? Did you dig deep enough to make it more interesting and to make it your own? Often the answer is no. Actually, I could have taken it further.
Great questions. Like really good questions for the classroom and for yourself, right? So as you go through things, it's if you can get into that third person and say, if I was somebody else looking at your work, does this communicate? Does this resonate? Does this have emotion, feeling, message? But I do also want to go back to what we were saying earlier, Giuseppe, language. And I don't want to erode through this notion of good versus bad. There are things that are good. There are things that are bad. We do have fundamentals. It's just where you take those fundamentals and move forward with it. What is the fingerprint that you're going to leave on things that take us into the unknown and bring something back for people to see? That's your lens. But for sure, there are obviously things that there's so many factors at play, but that would get rid of the importance of drawing, the importance of composition, the importance of structure and color and all of those things. Oh, they don't matter. They don't matter. It's just idea. That's a dangerous, slippery slope too. So, I don't mean to be flip-flopping on any of this, but it's one of those things where once you know the rules, once you can develop those skill sets, then you have a lot of autonomy to push them, break them, bend them, challenge them, rewrite them.
Man, I could have ended the episode right there, but I won't. Let's end it here. What piece of advice, in addition to everything you've already just said, word of wisdom, something you've learned perhaps since you graduated in 98, which blows my mind because I thought I knew about your work sooner than that. Did you start working right away? Because I graduated in 99 from RISD. And I already knew about your work. How is that possible?
I appreciate it. Yeah, I had a lot of things happen pretty fast for me, and I credit a lot of it to going to the Illustration Academy, but I was also in the Student Society of Illustrators. I got a scholarship there, and things took off pretty quickly. So I was working pretty much right out of the gates and getting into the annuals, and say that with all due humility. I was very fortunate to have those things happen.
But as far earned it, so
well, as far as words of wisdom for people, for artists, to narrow it down a little bit, I would go back to this idea that we were talking about earlier, that you have to be creative in all things that you do. And this is your creativity in observing. And that's not just manifesting as drawing. That's seeing patterns, seeing connections between things. I define ideas as the unseen connections between known things. So an idea doesn't have to be original, but once you have an idea, you have to show people, again, give it a body, like give it structure. Mm-hmm. But things are changing at such an unprecedented rate that your ability to order chaos as an artist cannot be understated. Our ability to go into a room, and I've done this on a number of occasions. We did this actually in front of a lot of engineers and pilots and folks at NASA, where we were in this hour-long conversation, and people were talking. And I finally got up and went to the whiteboard and said, "Is this what you're talking about?" And I showed them something, a diagram, and they literally said, That's not it at all. That is not it. That's not what. And then I said, well, what about this? I did another drawing. And they kind of nodded their heads a little bit and said, yeah. And then my colleague, Jason Bennett, stood up and he riffed it off of that and drew something else. And they literally told us, we've never seen it that way before. So in 1 minute, we took an hour's conversation and we were able to order chaos and give it direction. And I think if you have the ability to draw, to think, to communicate, that you have all the tools that you need to step into a number of situations and bring value by ordering chaos. So that's not to be understated.
To learn more about Sterling, visit sterlinghundley.com. If you find value in this podcast, consider becoming a patron. In return, you can access bonus episodes, receive invitations to our Art Directors After Hours series, and get a 10% off discount code for all ID offerings. Become a patron by visiting patreon.com/illustrationdept. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time.